Item 5 is staff recognitions. Dr. Tinsley.
Thank you. Well, I have the honor tonight of recognizing our amazing principals here in Lovejoy ISD. October is National Principals Month, and it's just not the only month that we celebrate these wonderful leaders. We do it throughout the year, but we want to recognize them tonight. But before I call them to ask them to come up, there was some information that was shared with the C9 team recently on the impact of principals, and it's some recent study on the impact of principals with students. And if you'll bear with me just a minute for those of you who are math people, maybe you'll appreciate this. But this was a study that was done with more than 22,000 principals in 4 states in 2 urban school districts. And it talked about how much principals matter. And it found that a 1 standard deviation increase in principal effectiveness increases the typical student's achievement by 0.13 standard deviations in math and 0.09 standard deviations in reading. So to translate that result, the impact is estimated to be replaced for a highly effective principal compared just an average principal, that can increase a student's results in math by 2.9 months growth and then 2.7 months in reading. So, and you think about the impact, teachers are the number 1 impact on student achievement, but a teacher impacts generally a smaller number of students, and highly effective principal impacts a significant number of students across that campus. So we are very fortunate to have highly effective principals here in Lovejoy ISD, and we'd like to recognize them. So Ms. Cordell's going to go up, and we have some certificates there. And when I call your name, if you'll come on up, everyone just come on up and we'll recognize you. So Dr. Travis Ambasi is our high school principal here in Lovejoy. Chris Coder. Yep. Chris Coder is our middle school principal at Willow Springs Middle School. Courtney Halpin is our principal at Sloan Creek Intermediate School. Miss Holly Haynes, principal at Puster Elementary. And Miss Wendy Kraft, principal at Hart Elementary.
All right. Item 6, public comments related to October 24, 2022 agenda items. None this evening. Marvin, could you help lead us in the invocation, please, sir?
Sure. Everyone bow your heads. Dear God, we are grateful for all the parents, students, teachers, administrators, parents, and our wonderful volunteers in the Lovejoy community. I ask that you guide our thinking and sharpen our minds tonight as we work through tonight's agenda. Help us to model servant leadership as we work through all of the issues that are presented before us. We especially ask that you be with those and comfort those only as you can in the St. Louis, Missouri school shooting. And all these things we ask. Amen.
Amen. All right. Notification items, a little bit different. You have the notifications in your packet from Ms. Koenig for new hires and resignations. Thank you very much. All right. Item 9 is our consent agenda. Items 9A through 9F. Anything you would like to have pulled for further review before we take consideration? If there's none, then I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second, so moved. Amy Smith, second, Marvin Bobo, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. Item 10 is celebration of learning. Dr. Tinsley.
I'm going to ask Mrs. Haynes and Mrs. Perkins to come up, and if our first grade team from Puster will come on up to the front here as well. We are super excited about launching Celebration of Learning, which we plan to include in our monthly board meetings. And this is just an opportunity to give the board and community some insight, excuse me, on some amazing work that's being done in our classrooms each and every day with our teachers and our students and our school administrators. We are super excited tonight to have the Puster Elementary first grade team, and our focus is going to be on early reading. I've always said if I could go back and become a teacher, I would always go back and become a first grade teacher, because that is such a year that our students make such significant growth. And reading is one of those magical moments that when children acquire that it just really opens their world. So I'm going to have Aaron and Holly lead us off, and then you're going to be hearing from our teachers. And then a very special treat, you're going to be hearing from a couple of our first graders tonight as well, too.
All right, good evening. We're so excited about this. Before we kind of jump into the amazing reading instruction that these ladies have done this year, we thought it was super important to kind of go back to what we value here in our culture in Lovejoy ISD, because I think what you're going to hear as we celebrate them tonight, you're going to hear all 5 of these things just kind of woven into everything that they've done this year, from the relationships that they've built with their students and their team, the focus on their own learning as professionals plus the students' learning. You're going to hear about the collaboration that has gone into the work that they've done, and then you're going to get to see firsthand the results that they have produced through their students' growth. So we are so excited. And I'm sure, knowing this team for the short amount of time that I've had, I'm sure there was some fun kind of built in along the way there. So we're excited. Ms. Haynes is going to introduce them, and then we're going to highlight some of the things that they've done this year.
They do have a lot of fun. I can attest to that. It is my pleasure to introduce our first grade team. We have Shelly Lander. We have Diane Frame, Grace Silva, Madison Murphy, Ali Marie Castellano, and Kelly Alvarez. And they are a fantastic team who brings a wide range of experiences to the table, which is what we want on a great team. We could have chosen a number of things to celebrate at Puster, but really this team has stood out for the past couple of years for their level of collaboration and the work that they do. They serve as a model for how we want our teachers and staff to interact with each other as they are planning. They are a prime example of professional learning communities at work, and really have been even prior to this year. In our work that we've been doing around that. They collaborate with each other. They utilize data to inform their decisions. They share the responsibility for all students. So when they collaborate, they're looking grade level wide and how we can work together to meet the needs of all of our students. You're going to see examples of how they differentiate their instruction to meet students where they are, and they're focused on results.
All right, so just to give you a little background on what reading instruction looks like in Lovejoy, and then they're going to share some day-to-day examples of what they have done. So we're excited to hear that. But as they collaborate together, they're really focusing on these 5 things to plan effective reading instruction. And it takes all 5 of these pieces to build a strong reader. It takes comprehension, so the student understands what they're reading. Their fluency has to be there, reading accurately with expression while maintaining that comprehension. Phonics is a key piece, being able to connect the sound of the letter to the symbol of the letter. The phonemic awareness piece is really, that's a part where the student really is able to identify the sounds that they hear and manipulate those sounds. And then, of course, developing their vocabulary, academic vocabulary, the social vocabulary that they use. So all 5 of those components go into planning an effective reading block. And so this year, actually over the last couple of years, this team and some of them got to participate last year. Some are involved in this year. And they participated in the Texas Reading Academies, where they really kind of dove deeper into what the science of reading tells us. And the science of reading is really just a body of research that provided us as educators with a deeper understanding of what reading instruction should look like, what the skills are involved in creating good readers. And what it told us, it really confirmed some things for us, that our instruction needs to be explicit and it needs to be systematic. But something that we knew, and this team does really well, and I think as they begin to share with you their work, you're going to hear how they use data to inform their instruction, and they use that data to differentiate for their students. And so no matter if they're working in whole group or in small group, as you see on the screen, their instruction was informed by their data and differentiated to meet the needs of their kids. So we are excited now for them to share with you what they do on a day-to-day basis to reach their kids.
Okay, so as a team, we are working together daily, almost pretty much 5 days a week during our planning, and then sometimes after school as well, to continuously review our students' data. We do progress monitoring usually about bi-weekly, and then we make our groups, and the groups are very flexible and fluid, so it just depends on what the data says, and kids move around. Current data is used to group these students with any kind of similar either skill or need that they need for becoming a better reader and a better in any form of literacy. These groups change throughout the year, so they do not stay the same. In fact, the kids could tell you that one day they're with this teacher and the next day they're over here, but they're very good about moving around. And then we use our M-Class data to plan our small groups as well as teacher-created lessons. We're also always looking to develop ourselves as learners so that we're constantly growing and building ourselves to be better teachers to all of our students.
And then the last thing that we're just adding is we're constantly doing our data and we're making goals with the kids, and the kids are actually with us when they're making their goals, and they know how to continually progress monitor to see how they're doing, and we're taking that data and we're turning it into our lessons. So that way we're hitting what the kids actually need.
I'll talk. Okay, so I'm going to skip down to the second one. Build Groups is actually a new program pushed out through Scottish Rite, who is kind of like the dyslexia gurus. We were trained in it one afternoon, and what I love about these women is that we just kind of took it and we started our build groups. We took our data, we made build groups, and it's really just a very targeted program to help our readers that need a little bit more support. So it's 100 days of targeted instruction. We've got 3 of us that pull those groups. It's a lot of fun. It's neat to see them progress because you get to work with them every day. And then while 3 of us are doing build, there's 3 of us that are doing groups from our M-Class data. So that's another way we gather information. We kind of test kids through that, and then we target the specific skills that they need some more support in. So small groups, we love it. And really the great thing about it is without a collaborative team, you can't really do it. So we're very fortunate.
Yeah. So for most of our small groups, we get a lot of the data from M-Class, and there are DRAs in our running records. And so we build them off those, and while we need to change them, we're taking notes as well to move students in and out of those groups as well.
Hi, well, I get to show you all these lovely photos of all of our different reading groups. And so you can see that the students are doing all different activities based on the needs that they've shown. And so there's students working on phonemic awareness, there's students working with magnet letters and building words, and there's students who are jumping right into reading their books with their small group. And so it's really awesome to just see that all of our groups are doing different activities to differentiate for the students that we have. And so this just gives you a fun preview of our students, but the most exciting part of the night, we have some super special guests. some of our own first grade readers. So I have the very special honor of introducing Cal to come up and read a book to you.
So,
There it goes. Next up, we have Mercy Bell coming up to read to you as well.
This book is called Baby Bear's Hiding Spot. One day, Father Bear said, I'm going into the forest to find some food. You can come with me, Baby Bear. Oh, good, said Baby Bear. I will get my basket. Baby Bear went into the forest with Father Bear. Look at all the red berries in my basket, said Baby Bear. You are a good little bear, said Father Bear. When Baby Bear saw a big tree, I can climb this tree, he said, and up he went. I'm going to climb all the way to the top, said Baby Bear. But Baby Bear saw a big hole in the tree. I can get inside this hole, he said. Baby Bear went into the hole. He looked down. I can see Father Bear, he said, but he can't see me. I can hide from him. I am in him in here. Father Bear said, come on, Baby Bear. We are going home now. Where are you? I can't see Baby Bear's. I can see Baby Bear's basket, but I can't see him, said Father Bear. Is he lost in the forest? Ooh, said Baby Bear. I'm hiding up here in my little tree house.
Cal, come back up here real quick. Mercy Bell, come back up here. So Cal and Mercy Bell, first grade team. One more round of applause for them. That was amazing. And then there you go. Thank you guys for coming. Oh, get a picture. Oh, you know what? You're going to be in our picture. All you know.
Well, that was really cool. Good luck to whoever's up next trying to top that one. And great job to our readers and all of our educators. Thank you for that. Awesome job. We're going to challenge that presentation with our audit fund. All right. Item 11, consider and act on the 21-22 independent audit and annual financial report. Dr. Plessis.
Good evening. So this evening, I apologize, Carl. I didn't know that that was going to be the item for you. But Carl Deaton is a CPA. He's with the firm out of Denton that the board has engaged to do the independent financial audit to the board on our financials for last fiscal year. So I'm going to hand it over to Carl.
Thank you, Jennifer. And yes, so this is not near as interesting as listening to a baby bear.
You could read it with inflection like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hey, I think this stuff is interesting, but I'm sure I'm in the minority. Okay, these are the audited financial statements for the last fiscal year ending June 30, 2022. And I think you might have gotten an electronic copy. Hopefully you had a chance to look at it, but I brought you a paper copy as well. Be easier to follow. If you turn to page 24, you will find the activity for this last fiscal year for the three largest funds that the district has. The largest one being the left column, the general fund. General fund basically accounts for any dollars that are not required to be accounted for in another fund. And you see total of $45 million of revenue, $42 million of expenditures. Bottom line, a $2.8 million increase in the fund balance from 8.5 million up to 11.3. That 11.3 has finally gotten you over a 3-month reserve. If you divide that into the 42.7 million that you spent last year, that is more than 3 months. It's about 26.5%. And it's taken a little while to get up there. I will tell you, though, that of that $2.8 million increase this last year, about $1 million of that is COVID-related funds. About $700,000 of ESSER money that reimbursed you for prior year expenditures that went into this, back into the general fund, and about $250,000 of child care relief funds, which were COVID funds as well as in the past, the food service fund has been accounted for in a separate fund, but the food service fund was included in the general fund this last year. There was no legal reason to have it in a separate fund anymore, no requirement. And so if I'm sure you're well aware, the food service fund made a significant profit last year with all kids eating free. Virtually every school district realized a good profit in food service this last year because of the significant federal meal reimbursements. But about 400,000 of that 2.8 is food service profit. And so $1 million of COVID, 400 of food service, about, again, 1.4, half of the 2.8 are things that were different than the prior year. That still leaves $1.4 million that you were able to generate through things that you did in order to try to get the fund balance up this last year. All right, the middle column on page 24, the debt service fund, of course, it collects the interest-seeking portion of property taxes, makes principal and interest payments on bonded debt. There were some principal prepayments this last year, and so that's why you see a decrease in its fund balance from 9.2 million down to 4.5. You also sold some bonds, some refunding bonds this last year. That you see that $30 million flowing in and out of that column toward the bottom. The footnote about that refunding back later in the report discloses that The reason you did that is you're going to save $19 million in interest over the life of the bonds that were refunded. So anytime your financial advisor suggests you have the opportunity to refund bonds, even if you have to kick in some money to do it, it's normally well worth doing it. And this one's going to save you over the long run a significant amount of debt service monies, property tax dollars because of that. The column next to that is the Capital Projects Fund. It's the fund that always accepts bond money from new bond sales, new money sales. And you did, along with the refunding bonds, sell $5 million of new bonds this last year to go toward construction projects. That column tells you spent $10 million on various construction projects this last year, about $4 million of unspent capital projects money at the end of the year. So those are the three major funds of the district. The column on page 25 entitled Other Funds is a summary of a multitude of other funds that are back on page 76, begin on page 76. So if you turn back there, this is page 76 through 78 is where you'll find the Title I program, the various special ed programs. On page 77, there's two more COVID-related funds, the ones labeled Fund number 283 and 289, the ESSER supplemental, and then the ELC reopening schools was a school health support grant, COVID money to help on hygiene, cleaning supplies, things like that. And then also to point out to you, the Fund 465, there was over $1 million of various grants and donations that came into the district this last year. A lot of that from the foundation, but from other places as well. That just anytime that happens, that keeps you from having to spend potentially general fund money on various things. So that's always good to see a lot of activity in that fund. And then most of the other funds are ones you see from year to year. Turning a couple more pages, on page 80 and 81 is the summary of the property tax collection, levy and collection activity this last year. The district had a good year collecting property taxes. Page 81, the left column, tells you had $1,073,000 of delinquent taxes owed at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year. You levied over $46 million of taxes during the year. And that right column tells you that you actually had less due, less delinquent at the end of the year, $1,012,000. So you had a good collection rate on your taxes this last year. And then the last part of the report, beginning on page 87, is what's called the single audit section, the federal award section. And it's required because you receive more than $750,000 in federal funds. And those federal funds are detailed beginning on page 93. This is a required schedule that basically shows the grant numbers and other detail that will help these federal agencies know that you accounted for these funds that you received from various sources. All those COVID-related funds we talked about are on here, the special ed, the title programs, and so on. The child nutrition funds on page 94, giving you an idea of how much food service money did come in, over $900,000 in federal meal reimbursements and commodities this last year. And then some more of the federal funds at the bottom of page 95, including the SHARS money. But in total, the district received $3.4 million in federal funds this last year, which, while there's always headaches involved with federal funds and various compliance requirements, and it takes time to manage those funds, again, that's $3.4 million that went for needs that you didn't have to use other funds to do. So I think that's always good. And then last but not least, I want to point out at the very front, page 17, this consolidated financial statement. And the primary reason I pointed out is number one is it's always in the negative, which alarms some people. But on page 17, 17 is the consolidated asset and liability statement of the district that combines all of the funds, your capital assets, your long-term debt. But unfortunately, it also includes the district share of the unfunded state liabilities for TRS pension and TRS active care. And when you throw those multi-million-dollar state numbers in, you get a negative $21 million bottom line. The state kind of knows that's kind of a funny money type of bottom line. They, in evaluating the district, especially for the first rating, they factor out what is well more than $21 million of these state liabilities that are in this statement that weren't in there. You would have a very positive bottom line. And page 19 is a consolidated revenue and expense statement for last year. And it will actually show you that negative increased from or improved from a negative 32 million to a negative 21 million at the end of the year. What helps improve that are the positive increases in your fund balance, the prepayment of debt. As debt goes down, your net worth goes up. So a combination of things help at that bottom line, but the bottom line improved significantly even on this consolidated statement this last year. So overall, it's a very good looking audit report. I know the budget is painful at times, cutbacks are painful, but you've accomplished what I thought you needed to in getting your general fund balance reserve up to 3 months. So hopefully it will be able to stay there. The COVID money definitely helped. And if you got any questions that of anything you saw, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
I know it's not obviously it's accounting principles that force us to put this on here, but the deferred TRS money, what basis is that? What's the principle behind including that? Creates a lack of transparency to our citizens for certain.
Well, the principle behind that is that basically it is the district's responsibility to continue to make contributions to help bring that liability down. You know, the rates that employees and you as a district, as in the employer, are paying into TRS continue to go up. And in theory, it likely will continue to go up until these liabilities are down, because, you know, if you look at like that line 2540, the net pension liability, Lovejoy's share of the state unfunded liability is over $6 million. You know, it's a multi-billion-dollar liability on the state level. And the only way it's going to get paid down is, well, they could invest their money better, which might bring greater returns.
Participate, but
or participants are going to have to kick in more money. And so in theory, you know, the theory in accounting is that every district is responsible for its share or for a share of a portion of that liability. And the higher ups who write accounting standards and who think in theory a few years ago thought that liability needed to be shown. And fortunately, the TEA understands that really is not a liability of the district, that it's required for accounting purposes, as you said, but it is something that's factored out by the bond rating agencies and by the TEA, you know, in their evaluation of you as a district.
Got it. Thanks for expanding on that a little bit. Maybe not for you, but possibly for Jennifer. The ESSER funding that we received, I remember a number in the around 1.8 to 2.1 million collectively that was anticipated. I know obviously this is an audit, but generally speaking, those funds we thought in that 1.8 to 2.1 million, those may not have been your estimates, but estimates provided to the board either by the prior CFO or yourself. Is that still in the on track to be recouped through qualifying expenditures?
Yes, that's a great question. So we had several different grants, as Carl mentioned, and so we had to balance the prior expenditures that we had that were eligible for like the school health grant versus ESSER supplemental, and apply to maximize the allocation that we would be able to claim back. We have until September of 2023 to complete out the $2.1 million ESSER supplemental allocation that the district received. And we were just, Thomas and I were just talking about that the other day. We continue to collect those costs and submit them for further reimbursement by the state.
And is it a fair question to ask, do we anticipate being able to recapture that full 2.1?
You want to answer that? The full 2.1. Mm-hmm.
All I heard was highly likely.
That's what I keep hearing too,
I'm
but
kidding,
we have a lot of conversations about that. So, in fact, we were laughing the other day, somebody posted on a state website about trying to reimburse a playground with ESSER supplemental funds. And I thought, wow, we're really, some of us are just really stretching to do everything we can. It does have to be related to learning loss, or COVID health concerns. So there are some limitations, but we continue to try to identify as much as we possibly can.
Do everything that we can do.
Mhm.
Correct. And then Carl, reading through it, which I was hoping I would have read my last audit report some years ago, but I haven't. Is there anything that you wanted to call to our attention that we as a board should focus on in our role?
You were over budget in one function this last year, but that just is going to generate just a little paragraph in the letter from the TEA when they look at it. I don't consider that a big deal. That happens in a lot of the districts that I audit, and I don't believe there were any other blips at all in the report. I didn't point out the page, and maybe I'll go ahead and point it out. There's only one new schedule in the audit report this year. It's page 84. The state has started requesting in the audit report numbers about whether or not you're spending sufficiently the amount you receive as an allotment from the state for compensatory ed and for bilingual ed. There's several other programs you receive allotments. For some reason, the state has pulled out these two, and they want the numbers in the report. And both of these you spent sufficiently. There is another program or two that most districts I deal with are having trouble spending all the money that comes from the state. COVID has something to do with that, in that, there was a period of time where just there were certain programs not going on that the state was giving you money, expecting you to spend it in that area. Fortunately, the state has a 3-year rolling average, so they're only going to look at what you receive over a 3-year period and see what you spend in that area over a 3-year period. So if you fall short in one particular year, you have, in theory, 2 years to make it up. But, Jennifer and Thomas both know the areas that were falling short. And it wasn't a whole lot this last year, but just got to budget and work to spend some money in those areas. That doesn't show up in the audit report as anything that as a shortfall, again, because fall short in 1 year is not that big of a deal. You got a 3-year rolling average, to make it up. But no, there's nothing else in the report besides the one budget over one function over budget that you would say is negative at all.
Wouldn't hardly call that one negative.
Yeah.
Thank you for.
I know Thomas did not like that function being over budget.
Well, we appreciate that concern as well. Any questions, board, in regards to the audit? Beyond those asked. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Thank
and
you.
thank you, team, for working with him and getting that done timely. We appreciate that greatly. So, let's see. We need to make a motion to, or we need to consider action to accept and approve the audit as presented. So moved. Ann Smith. Second, Julie McLaughlin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. And again, thanks for the work on that. No, it takes a lot of time. We appreciate it. Being timely. Item 12, consider and act on the 22-23 district improvement plan goals and performance objectives.
Thank you. I brought to you at the board workshop this month an overview of the process that we follow when developing our district improvement plan goals and objectives, as well as what our campuses do. So it serves, I want to kind of just recap on what the role of it is. It is responsibility according to Texas Education Code that we have a site-based decision-making process in all of our school districts in the state of Texas. The purpose of the district and campus teams is to establish a collaborative approach to improve student achievement for all students. So embedded in the plans are goals, district performance objectives, and then also strategies. The board is responsible for approving the goals and the performance objectives. So you'll be hearing from me tonight on what we are proposing for your approval. The teams are responsible for overseeing the development of the goals and performance objectives and also monitoring the implementation. The team meets 3 to 4 times during the year to review progress, make adjustments, and measure the success of the goals or the performance objectives. We have the teams that are our campus and district teams are comprised of 2/3 classroom teachers, parent representatives serve, business representatives, community members, and district staff. These are the major roles and responsibilities. They look at overall school organization, staffing recommendations when it comes to performance objectives on how to support staffing here in the district, budgeting, curriculum, staff development, and planning. So you'll see that embedded in the 5 goals and the performance objectives. And this just gives you an overview, again, a reminder that the number one goal is to improve student achievement, and through this collaborative planning process, it is community and parent involvement as well, and a collaborative decision-making approach. And again, this is just kind of a recap of the process that we follow. And I shared with you a couple of weeks ago the timeline. This is where we are bringing it forward for your approval. Following the district improvement plan, you'll hear from the principals on proposing their campus improvement plans. So this is members of the committee. I'm sorry, when we printed it, I guess it kind of got off centered there, but this represents our teaching staff, our business representatives, non-teaching professional staff. So that could be counselors, administrators, someone who is not a classroom teacher, parent representatives, community, and district. So I want to present the 5 goals and performance objectives. What you will find, and you all have a copy of it there in front of you, our goals and our performance objectives intersect with the board goals and then also the strategic planning goals as well too. So we've done a lot of the needs assessment process back in the spring, and we are very focused on ensuring that everything is aligned, that it's not separate, that it's aligned to the work that's already been done. So goal number 1 is focus on academics. I'm not going to read that because you're well aware of the board priority goal there, but this focus is on ensuring that we are providing a broad range of academic measures for our elementary, intermediate, middle, and high school levels. We are looking at our graduate profile and ensuring that we're providing a well-rounded education for our students. And I want to lift out a couple of the performance objectives. We've talked about these. You've already approved some of the House Bill 3 goals that are embedded in House Bill 3 performance objectives, which have to do with reading, math, and then your CCMR. The one I do want to lift out, it's on page, it says page 5 of 9. There's a couple here on, it's called Performance Objective 10, and it's the development of the learner profile that reflects future ready competencies in alignment with the Lovejoy ISD graduate profile at each grade level. So that is lifted out from the strategic plan, Lovejoy 2030. So we'll be carrying forth, we're already in the planning stages of where we're going to be taking the work that the committee brought forth in the spring and carrying it forth this year with the hope that we're going to be able to produce a revised graduate profile if we see there's a need to do that and it's aligned to what it looks like at each grade level. Another one is looking at daily attendance. Daily attendance, we talk a lot about that with the financial impact, but really it does have a significant impact on student achievement. So we felt like that was an important performance objective to have aligned with this goal. So those are two that I wanted to lift out here. Are there any questions about goal 1 and performance objectives before I move on? Okay. Goal 2 is a culture legacy of excellence, and this really has to do with our educators of who we support here in our district. Again, this is focused on growth, positive relationships with all stakeholders, and how our team members' actions align with our core values, focusing on relationships, learning, collaboration, results, and fun. A couple that I do want to lift out here, Performance Objective 2, Lovejoy ISD will establish best practices and partnerships with universities and alternative certification programs to recruit and retain talent. I can say right now we're in the midst of doing that already. Mrs. Koenig and her team have been instrumental in supporting our campuses as we are still trying to fill some of these positions that we have open that are kind of hard to fill. We've got how many interns that are becoming, and 7 interns will be starting in the spring. So, you know, that's a strategy that aligns with those partnerships with universities. The other one I wanted to lift out is looking at how we are exploring other options for non-monetary compensation and alternative avenues for financial rewards and incentives for our district compensation plan. When I met with the district improvement team, that was a question, what does that actually mean? Those would be things like transportation to and from campuses. Employees can bring students, if they don't live in the district, they can bring their students here. We have a child care facility. Anna, what are some other things that you would say would be not? The school marshal, some of the others. So just looking at, it's the non-compensation pieces of that. And then also, we always want to lift up opportunities for professional growth for our teachers. A recent study that I was reading about what keeps teachers in district, what helps retain teachers, it's when districts invest in the professional development of our teachers. So that is a big push here, and you've seen that, you heard it here from the first grade team and some of the work that we've been doing with some outside consultants with building capacity of our staff. So any questions about goal 2 and performance objectives aligned to that one? And then goal 3 is tied to continuous improvement and financial sustainability. This also intersected the recommendations from our Financial Sustainability Committee work in the spring, as well as Lovejoy 2030, and of course from the board. A couple that I want to lift out here are Performance Objective 3, which states Lovejoy ISD will create and implement a holistic, balanced technology plan that fosters learning, accountability, innovation, and personal connection. So there's already been work began on this that we're not just looking at technology equipment, we're looking at our infrastructure. What are we doing as far as preparing our students, preparing our teachers to integrate that into the work that we're doing? So the goal is to produce a comprehensive technology plan that's short-term and long-term goals. And also the work that we are already doing and will be doing more in the spring is looking at how we're using existing facilities and needs that we may have in the future here in Lovejoy. I'm going to move on to goal 4, which is parent and community partnerships. And I want to lift out here some that we're excited. We're already in the works with some strategies on meeting these performance objectives. We are creating a district volunteer portal to help match areas of need with community and parent expertise. We have some parents that have launched that portal and have already done some extensive work, and the C&I department is working closely with that team to start getting this information out to our campuses so that they can start accessing some of the resources that we have here in Lovejoy. And also, we're excited about the alumni network that we're starting. Mrs. Koenig has been instrumental in leading that. And then just the opportunities that we, on performance objective 4, just the opportunities that we are to bring teachers, staff, parents, community members around the table to support us in some shared decision making and looking at what we can do to help improve our services and supports for students here in Lovejoy. And then finally, safety and security. We're all familiar with this. Performance objectives are centered around the protocols and tools that we're using, our safety drills, looking at also our mental health and behavioral assessments, and then fostering partnerships with local law enforcement. And again, you are responsible for approving the goals and performance objectives. There are strategies tied to each of these performance objectives and how we are measuring the progress. Questions? Do you see connections to it?
I was going to say, the entire time I was reading them, I could remember everything from the strategic planning sessions and then the goals, and yes, it was perfectly aligned. That's what I thought the whole time as I was reading.
Yeah, I'm excited and refreshed from prior years and where we've been in the past versus where we're going. To see a plan that not only are we speaking the words, we're living it in our daily activities and through our leadership and culture. I see it happening. So really grateful. Appreciate the investment in our people. And I know that we talked about the Deloitte opportunity last board meeting, but I'm glad to see the emphasis there to invest in our people and our leadership in a multitude of ways, both through professional development as well as looking at other organizations and how they perform and do things and learning from other folks. So there's a lot in here and it's all very meaningful, but really excited about it.
We are too.
So,
thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions on the district improvement plan goals and performance objectives? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve that, to adopt that.
Move that we adopt the district improvement plan goals as recommended.
Second.
So moved, Julie McLaughlin, second, Marvin Bobo, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, item 13, consider and act on the 22-23 campus improvement plan goals.
I'm going to ask our principals to come forward. They are going to be presenting the goals and performance objectives that are going to be unique to their campuses. You will see that our campus goals align directly with the board priority goals and the district goals. You will see some similar performance objectives. You will see some that may be specific to those campuses. So I've asked the principals to lift out a performance objective or two from each goal and kind of give you some insight and some strategies on what they're doing, kind of where it is a living and breathing document. So we're going to start with Hart Elementary. What would be easier for you? If y'all want to go over there, I can click. Would that help for you? So Ms. Kraft's going to present the Hart Improvement Plan.
Good evening. So we had our campus improvement plan. We had our first meeting last week. It was great. On our team, we have Courtney Anderson, Katrina Araby, Lane Collins, Tori Dodd, Sarah Moody, and Amy Smith. Our business representatives were Brian Butler and Brad Haven. From the district, Kelly Cowan represented us for us. And then our non-teaching was Kristen Dawson, Megan Rollins, and Mary Ruggieri. And then we had Zanaya Mahaney and Catherine Montgomery. And then our community members were Aaron Johnston and Danny Miller. And so appreciative of them. They gave some great insight and input. And so we had great conversations. So it was really exciting for them to be a part of this process. So for goal number 1, again, I'm not going to kind of read for you, but really kind of one of our main focuses is on reading in kindergarten through 2nd grade and in 3rd grade. We found a direct correlation between reading progress and STAR. And so that's a big push for us. So 2 strategies that we're using for that is by the end of this year, all our kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers will have attended the Reading Academy training. But also something that I'm really excited about is we have hired a consultant to come onto our campus and to do some design-specific, campus-specific training for our teachers. So we started at the end of May, and we started kind of from our teachers and talking and observations. We really decided that guided reading was an area of growth for us. And so we did guided reading training with 1st and 2nd grade. All of my 1st and 2nd grade teachers came back this year. So then we got to kind of go to part 2 this year. And then my kindergarten teachers, they had the guided reading training just a couple of weeks ago. So that was exciting for them. But then for part 2 of our training, then they talked really about specifically here's where our students need to be at the end of the year. So we have quarter benchmarks of where we want our kids to be, but we went down to specifically month benchmarks. And so we planned backwards of here's where our students need to be and what do we have to do to get them there for each one of those benchmarks. And so it really created this sense of urgency and I can do this. Oh, wow, this is really what they need. And then specifically what kind of reading habits do they have to have? It was really powerful and exciting conversation. And then also we talked about running record, which was just a little quick way for them to collect data, but then we analyzed that and dug deeper and what does that really tell you about the reader? So it was really exciting, great feedback. And so then she's going to come back for us 2nd semester and she's going to do some coaching in the moment. So we're really excited about that. So for goal number 2, we are really kind of working on what we like to call pride. To complement the graduate profile is purpose, respect, integrity, drive, and enthusiasm. So we have leopard pride. And in every one of our areas, the teachers created expectations that all go around pride. So for a hallway, we have pride expectations. For the restrooms, we have pride expectations. And so this program is all throughout our building. And so that's kind of what we taught about. Every single teacher's on the same page. And now we have a big school kind of positive behavior intervention plan of pride bucks. And so kids are going to be spotted and getting pride bucks. So that's something new that we're starting this year. And then for goal number 3, we're talking about our zero-based budget. And this was really kind of from our parents. We talked about how we always analyze things. But one thing we talked about is we do different fundraisers throughout the year. Like, for example, our book fair. So we're going to have more intentionality around that of here's what our book, we're going to have a book fair, which we always advertise for, but this is what we're going to use the money for. And so our parents were like, we want to know what that money, this is going to be used for. So that's something we're going to start new this year and say, okay, we're going to use this for robots or books for our kids. So that's something different, which was a great parent thing. And then for goal number 4, really about implementing opportunities for stakeholders' involvement to increase transparency and leverage collective involvement. And really that comes around about communication, just being that proactive with communication, but also really taking opportunities to ask for feedback from students and parents. So we're going to create some opportunities for our students and parents to give us feedback, and also our staff members throughout the year. And then last but not least, we conduct monthly safety drills. for our staff and our students and our community. But we are going to also kind of a couple strategies we have. Number one is our school marshal does kind of a minute with Marshall Smith on the announcements, where he identifies different areas in our building that we might not be being the safest about. And so then he highlights it on the announcements and talks to our kiddos how to do it. Like, for example, after school or before school, when you get out of your car, walk towards the grass, not by the curb. Our kids like love the curb, and I'm like, oh, somebody's going to fall. So that's like something that he does. So he does different things to highlight different things. But something else that we do on our campus is we are doing our drills, but we kind of do different scenarios with it. So like on the fire drill, there might be a fire in the door you normally go out. So what are you going to do? So we try to kind of create some real life events to kind of help it not just be a drill. So that's our campus improvement plan. Do you have any questions for us? All right, thank you.
I'm getting ideas. I can tell them I go back and add some strategies to my plan. So this is great. So this is our CIT team at Puster, and we met a couple of weeks ago. It's always, I absolutely love any opportunity to get our parents involved and to share ideas with us. So Mr. Williams is representing back here too. He's on our team, so we appreciate his input. Beginning with goal number 1, you'll see all of our normal, academic goals around STAR data. And so all of that is still in place. We still want to see that year's growth in a year's time with every student. But I really wanted to highlight the addition of our work around professional learning communities, because that is where the magic is going to happen. It's in the planning. And so as we tighten up our planning processes and align those across the campus, we expect to see that come to fruition in our data. So, and then moving on to goal number 2, highlighting objective number 4, our systems of support for teacher planning, prep, and collaboration. And really, you'll see some strategies in our plan specific to special education. We've done a lot of work on our campus to create structures for our special education team and teachers for collaboration. We've aligned their planning times. We are meeting monthly to recalibrate or calibrate and collaborate together. We've done a lot of work with our master schedule to create more efficiencies to better serve our students. We have created a paperwork day each month for our teachers, where they are allowed to have a sub just for the purpose of all of the paperwork and planning that goes into preparing for ARD meetings. They also have access to our specially designed instructional coach on those days, so that as questions come up, she can be of support to them. We have also created an ARD day or 2 each month, depending on our caseloads for that month, where we bring in a floating sub who will go into the classroom to relieve the general education teacher. Our special education teacher can plan as many meetings as they need to during that day, which is a win-win, because it also protects the gen ed teacher's planning time if they have that sub coming in for that. So we have a lot still to do, but we're pretty proud of the work that we've done so far with that. Goal number 3, we have participated in the zero-based budgeting process. That was new for me this year, and it was eye-opening that we were able to save additional dollars by participating in that process. And then I meet bi-weekly with my budget assistant so that she can keep me on track when I have all these wants, and she says, but this is where we are, Holly. So that's been really helpful in participating in that process. Goal number 4, we have the goal of maximizing the use of volunteers at the district level, but we are also doing that at the campus level. We have a lot of talented people in our community, and so we want to leverage that the best that we can. We have brought in volunteers to assist with lunch and recess duties. We've held special trainings just to train them up and what that looks like. We're still coming back and revising and tweaking how that looks for our campus, but that has given time back to our teachers, which has been very beneficial. And then also, I know a couple of grade levels principals are utilizing volunteers to help during that leopard time, not with explicit direct intervention instruction, but with some of the enrichment pieces, with some of the rote practice that, sight word practice, math facts practice, those kinds of things, just reading with kids. So extra hands means more groups and better ways that we can serve our kids, and our volunteers can certainly help with that. And then last but not least, goal number 5, safety and security. Like Hart Elementary, we are also leveraging our school marshal on our campus, getting him more front and center. And you'll see a blurb in my principal message now that comes directly from Officer Emery. This is getting in front of people is not his favorite. And so we're really working on that with him. He does a little blurb on the announcements each week. And he right now still just has the screen with him reading behind the scenes. And I'm like, I told him today, I was like, you need to get on that camera. So we're going to get him up in front of that camera, but he sees the kids every day in the lunchroom, but we really would just want him to see the kids to see his face each week. And he offers up, reminders or anything he saw during the week that we need to tighten up on campus. He is that face for our students and for our community. So any questions for Pastor?
So I wanted to ask, and you made me think of this. You said, oh my gosh, I have all these things I want to implement. You were referencing Hart and Wendy. So y'all are crazy busy, right? And you have great plans. Do you have plans? And I think this might be a unique advantage because we have 2 elementaries for collaboration. For example, we listened to the wonderful reading team from first grade. Wendy's focusing on reading. Is that something y'all have thought about, or it's in the works? Maybe it already happens and we just don't know. I'm just curious.
We have a lot of opportunity to collaborate, and Wendy and I are really good about just picking up the phone when something comes up. But then in addition to that, the implementation of the vertical teams that's taking place at the district level, we are a part of that as well. And so we definitely are, and you have to recognize too, some of our teams are in different places with their need for training. And so we take that into consideration as well, but we collaborate all the time.
You just made me think of it when you said what you said. So.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
I was going to follow up on the reading teachers that you were nice enough to share with us tonight. I really appreciated that. But how is that something new that they're doing as a part of this PLC focus, or is this something that's evolved over time with their specific team? Is there? I'm very interested in seeing what that approach, because it seems like a very different approach than what a lot of other ELAR programs are doing, what it yields over time, and understanding when they actually started that.
That team is fairly new this year. They have a few new members. They did begin implementing the PLC process last year as a district and as a campus and campus wide. We're just beginning those steps in implementing that across the campus. But that team in particular has been analyzing data grade level wide since last year. We had implemented what we called last year flex time, which is our leopard time this year. It looked a little different. We were just dipped our toes in the water with it last year. But that team took the bull by the horns, and really they had the required flex time we had in our schedule, but then they took it the next step, and during their workshop times, they began flexing kids during that time, meaning that they were sharing kids during that time. These students might need this in reading, so I'm going to send them to you for their small group reading time. So they're a step ahead, I would say, as far as implementing, but that is our goal campus-wide, that we're all implementing that PLC process that way.
Sounds like they'll be interested in digging into the data on the effects down the road.
Absolutely. So, we all will. Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you.
A different flavor.
Good evening. I will am happy to share our Sloan Creek plan. We met last week and our members are up on the board, and I'll start with our academics. We really kind of same thing Holly said. We're talking a lot about achievement data. What Sloan Creek is really choosing to do is take that multi-tiered system of support and put some things in place to make sure we're meeting the needs of every student. We know it's a big jump when we go from a campus that had standards-based grading, and now we're getting numeric grades. And so we want to make sure that we really communicate that, but that we also work in teams. We are currently doing kid talks every couple of weeks where we meet with teams of teachers to make sure that we get a holistic view of that child, and that could impact reading. It could impact a different content area. So we really look as a team from every content area. It pairs really nicely with Branching Minds, which we are starting to put some data into, which we think will give us a good longevity of student data over time. So we're really excited about that. And then for goal 2, for our legacy of excellence, we're really trying to emphasize our pre-K through 12 graduate profile with our students. And they earn tickets right now for behavior that mimics what we're looking for in the graduate profile. And we draw those tickets weekly on announcements. We also have what we call student MVPs, that when they really go above and beyond, and they get to come and we make a positive phone call home. And then at our first Creek Life Assembly, we have staff MVPs that we award to, and we have them compete against our student MVPs. So we just did that the first time. Our students were not happy that our staff won, but they can redeem themselves next month. But the whole point of this is that we get the whole school involved, and we really want them to understand that the things that we're teaching them now are going to carry them all the way through high school and then later on in life. So that's an important message that we're trying to bring to them. And for continuous improvement, of course, like all others, we are participating in zero-based budgeting. The biggest thing that we try to do when I work with my budget assistant at the campus level is look at what money are we spending and what is necessary and what can we do through something that we already have. So we're constantly looking at that. What is the purpose? Is it driving our education decisions? And is it needed? So we're constantly revisiting that. And then for goal 4, parent and community partnerships. We're really trying to implement more opportunities for our students to be involved, especially with new initiatives. Like we have a new leopard store. So those kiddos that get those red tickets drawn, they get to spend those at our leopard store, and that's run by our parent volunteers. And they have organized that for us. They're there weekly. They are very involved in how we can celebrate our students. And then we also have added something to our website where parents can come and volunteer for PTO volunteer opportunities. So we're giving them opportunities to make copies for our teachers, to be in the library helping just to organize and shelve books, to be a part of Leopard Time since that is new. And the second, we're about to change our Leopard Time groups, and so parents are going to have even more opportunities to be involved. So we're making sure that any chance that we get them involved. And then for our safety and security, we are really trying to leverage our school marshal. Unlike Holly's marshal, mine really enjoys being on camera. So he is on camera often for us. And he is a lot of fun, and the kids love him. He's got music playing. He's all sorts of fun for us. But we meet with him weekly in our administrative meeting, and he tells us everything that we need to be up to date on. And then he has a section in our newsletters called Behind the Badge, where he gives us some good information for our parents to also know. So being transparent, we think that's really important with our safety and security as well. So that is all of our goals. Any questions for Sloan Creek? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So Chris Coder, Principal at Willow Springs. Our list of folks on our campus improvement team is up there. Got some great folks who are serving on that team. We have recently had some great conversations about how to improve our campus. That first goal for academics, one of the big things that we are focusing on at Willow Springs, we are super blessed with amazing teachers and amazing students who already perform incredibly high. One of the things that you'll notice as you look through our performance objectives is that a lot of our focus is on how to raise our master's scores. A couple of them are focusing on raising the MEET scores, but for the most part, we're really looking to see how we can raise our master's scores across the majority of our subject areas. So that's our big focus there. On Goal number 2, culture, legacy of excellence. We are really focusing in on supporting and valuing our teachers. A couple of things that we're doing there is we are trying to highlight and value and recognize our teachers as much as possible. One of the ways that we're doing that is I have a weekly newsletter that goes out to my staff. We're doing an individual teacher staff highlight week in and week out, where we try to, share some things that people might not know about that staff member. Fun fact, boring fact, stuff like that. But it's you get some fun answers when you say, give me a fun fact and a boring fact. You get some good stuff when you do that. Another thing that we're doing is we are at our staff meetings. I started the year off with 3 stuffed leopards, and then I passed 2 of the leopards to individuals who are doing a great job on our campus, and 1 of the leopards to a team. And so at each staff meeting after that, the staff member who received the leopard last time is now in charge of passing it on to another staff member who they see embodying our culture. And so that's been really fun to watch them pass it on to a team that they feel like is doing a great job, or another individual on campus who they feel like is doing a great job. As far as goal 3 goes, I know everybody's been talking about zero-based budget. I actually, on this one, I placed our attendance goal here. I know that attendance directly affects our monies that come into our school district, and so I thought that it was most appropriate for our attendance goal to be placed under financial sustainability. We're currently rocking a north of 98% attendance rate right now, and our goal is to continue that fabulous attendance that we have. I would like to attribute some of our attendance successes to Leopard Time. We've got a lot of feedback from our students and our parent community saying how much they value Leopard Time and how great it's been. And so I'm hoping that some of our kids are wanting to be at school a little more often so that they can participate in Leopard Time. Goal number 4, parent community partnerships. Much like my colleagues have said, we are really exploring ways to see parents on our campuses as much as possible. One of those pieces, again, I know I just mentioned Leopard Time again, but we are exploring ways that we can have parents participate in, coming up to school, helping out with Leopard Time. I'd like to give a shout out to Lisa Wilkins, who is actually volunteering weekly to come in and help with Garden Club during Leopard Time. I think she's there every Wednesday, if I remember correctly. But again, that's just one of those opportunities that we have created for a parent to step in and, help our kids do something that maybe they wouldn't normally get during 2nd period or 5th period. So that's been a really great partnership that we have. Lastly, safety and security. We are focusing in, just like the lady said previously, we are focusing in on drills. Our goal is to schedule our fire drills as close to the 1st of the month as possible. We're trying to schedule those drills during different periods of the day so that it's not always 2nd period who gets the drill. It's not always 4th period that gets the drill. Our goal is to try to make sure that every period gets a drill at some point. And then in the 2nd semester, we are going to conduct a fire drill during a passing period, because we know that if an actual event were to take place, it's not just going to happen when we think that it's going to be best. It could happen at any time. So we want to make sure that we're prepared for everything. And thank you so much. Any questions?
I wanted to
Yes.
say I love the passing of the leopard.
Oh, yes.
And
Thank you.
I'm sure this was intentional, right? But the team concept,
Yes.
when a peer is recognizing their peer,
Yep.
awesome. So I just love that. I think that's so great.
Thank you so much. Yep.
Well done.
Anyone else? Questions? Thanks.
All right. I'm Travis Zambezi, principal at Lovejoy High School. Thanks for having me tonight, and we'll be presenting on the campus improvement plan for Lovejoy High School. We had a number of teachers, Mr. Horst, Mr. McCaslin, Ms. Pollard, and Ms. Dollinger, Mr. Glaze, Ms. Varnell, Ms. Gaddy, Ms. Vaughn, and Ms. Brewster. And I read all their names because across those teachers that were nominated, we've got athletics covered, we've got core content areas covered, and fine arts. And so it's a great group to collaborate with, and that was evident in our meeting, our first meeting last week. Myself, Miss Robbins, and Miss Thrash will be working a lot with us from a lead counselor standpoint and a CCMR standpoint. Miss Eldridge is on there, and then Miss Emery, our campus librarian and lead librarian, is on there. Our parents, we've got a great partnership with Holly Dominguez and Kelly Abernathy. Our community member, might see a familiar name, is Nancy Lesner. She's helped us a lot on master schedule, and that'll be a PO that we lift up in a little bit. And then Chris Harper with Jostens is volunteering to be our community rep, and so we're excited about that. All right, so goal 1 under academics, a performance objective that I'd really like to lift up is, as you see performance objective 3 right there, we have our 4 core content areas represented, and I listed the 5 EOCs that come with those core areas. And what we do at Lovejoy High School, we do a great job of ensuring that a high number of our students pass, right? That approaches level on STAR scores. And that's wonderful. And those students will continue to receive intervention in a number of ways, including our flex period leopard time, where intervention is a go-to for our kids. However, this PO actually talks about raising our mastery levels on those. If you look at our test data, what you see is a large number of our students approach and then meet. And it's just an emphasis by our teachers as we implement professional learning communities, and we honor that collaborative planning time to make sure that we're talking about our students, and we're ensuring that all students make growth. And so focusing and making sure that those students are moving from the meets category to the masters is oftentimes a great data point to look at. And so we're excited to hopefully see even higher mastery levels as well as our excellent passing levels. Next up, culture, legacy, excellence. As we dive in as a district and make sure that our whole district is functioning as a professional learning community, a lot of our professional development revolves around those 4 essential questions. And as we're going through district PD and doing that as a staff together, what you'll see at Lovejoy High School is, like Dr. Tinsley pointed out in one of the reports and studies, feeling connected and feeling like the organization that you work for puts a value in your professional learning, and it's targeted and specific. As we move into the second semester, our campus leadership team has a great vision to support professional learning communities, but to get feedback from the staff, and where during some of their built-in collaborative planning time on Fridays, when they've already planned with their collaborative team numerous times, they can actually not come before or after school, but it's built into their day, and based on their feedback, they'll have coordinators from the district, department leads, myself, et cetera, who are there to actually provide PLC aligned and district belief aligned professional development, but it'll be meaningful for them because they got to pick it and we designed it together, and then we're learning together, which is really wonderful. And so that takes care of goal 2. Goal 3, continuous improvement in financial sustainability. And I'd like to talk about PO2 right there at the bottom. Lovejoy High School will maintain or exceed a daily average attendance rate of 97.8%, almost that 98% that would really be great. Something in addition to what some of the other principals have talked about, we've had a lot of really deep conversations with our kids and our teachers and also our community, right? And we are implementing things such as letters and 90% phone calls and truancy letters and things like that. Sounds really fun, right? But what it's actually doing, when I met with our assistant principals last week, it's allowing our assistant principals to be proactive, work with Mr. Parker, student services, things like that, and ensure that we're building relationships with those students, because if they're not coming to school and have a high absence rate, they're not feeling that connection that we want all our leopards to feel. And so just building those relationships and being proactive rather than, just someone who doesn't come to school, et cetera. One, yes, are you helping your ADA? Absolutely. But you're also building that relationship, and the feedback that we've seen, students are coming up and saying, hey, I'm here. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I had an emergency. I missed first period. But they're being proactive because they built that relationship and they have a go-to in their assistant principal, that kind of thing. And so we're excited about that. Parent and community partnerships. We will explore and support pathways for students, families, and the community to contribute to the school district, which utilize their talents and resources while lifting up their own unique value. So something that you may have been a part of, Leopard Friday went very, very well. And so those are some of the community events that we offer. We also have STEM and STEAM night coming up, which Mr. Horst, who's on the committee, talked about. And really here, a deep partnership with all of our parents by inviting them in and pulling them closer. We recently also had a SAGE event for a lot of our community. And again, this is huge when we have such a great relationship with our PTO and PTSO at the high school level. They offer a number of events and a way for our parents and families to be connected. And then safety and security. Lovejoy High School on the POs will implement security communication protocols, and we will review and support processes for mental health. There have been a number of logistical changes to start the year that we are so proud of our kids of in regard to just the day-to-day operations of the campus. And on this one, really, I want to brag on the proactiveness of Marshall Littlefield and Regan, who's our campus marshal. Before the homecoming dance, we are meeting with all staff that are working it an hour before the first kid's going to show up, and we're being proactive, right? And Casey has an operations center set up in that room behind the gym. We're just being so proactive. And so not only are we always analyzing our logistical and day-to-day operations, parking lot operations, et cetera, to make sure that we're as safe as possible, but we're being proactive for those medium-sized and major events. So that's the highlights of our campus improvement plan. Any questions? Thank you, guys.
All right.
So that's just a small bit of what they do, but you see why we have such amazing principals here and the leadership that they're leading. So hopefully that gave you some insight to how it's a working plan. So
I would just say I really appreciate the alignment with, I don't remember that previously, and it I think will make us better. So thank you.
Few comments I had, and one is I've not sat through a presentation on district improvement plans and enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed hearing what we're doing and how we're going about doing it. And I feel like you created a level of transparency to both us as a board and the community and to each other, quite frankly, that allows it to actually be meaningful. It's executable and it's trackable. I appreciate the leadership in the room taking ownership for each of your campuses and exhibiting that leadership here to us and sharing that with us. So I think also modeling that leadership is a part of the process that the kids are gravitating to, as well as the parents and us. And we respect that and appreciate that. And then the other thing is I noticed the baseline in every category is above where it was when we came back from COVID and started. And so not only is it an improvement plan on what we've already done, but there's a lot of work that came before these sessions that are reflected in your goals of our starting point. So it's exciting, actually, and I appreciate it. It's impressive.
I wanted to add too, you have some really bold goals and I love it. Some of the attendance y'all put out there, like, bravo. And I can't wait to see how that unfolds. I hope the students know that number is the number, right? Because I think y'all are going to do some great things. So thank you for being more aggressive on something that's a driver like that.
So with that, we would consider action to approve the campus improvement plan, goals, and performance objectives for 22 and 23.
So moved.
So moved. Jeff Wood.
Second.
Second, Ann Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, item 14, intruder detection audits.
Good evening. As you guys know, at our September regular board meeting, we provided some information on our initial intruder detection audit at Puster Elementary School. Since then, we've gotten some additional guidance from the Texas School Safety Center, which that's their job, is to give guidance to schools throughout the state of Texas, just on the type of information, the sensitivity of the information that's given in those, that's given in the detection audit findings. And so moving forward, we will let the community and public know that when we have an audit that takes place in the district, but specifically what that communication from the Texas School Safety Center said was the sensitive information identified by the audits could compromise safety and security, and thus specific details will be kept secure. And so, of course, like we did tonight, we'll continue to share the findings in closed session with you guys, talk about the steps that we will take. But as far as an open session, we'll just continue to, or we will just share with you that an audit was performed. And so there was a second audit that was performed in the district on October 18th. We shared those findings with you in closed session, and that's kind of how we will communicate the findings moving forward.
Thank you. All right, item 15, cabinet reports.
Good evening. So we have just a few updates in the area of finance and operations to share this evening. In the area of finance, you saw the audit has been closed out. So we know that, that we have a great team from payroll to HR. There's so many people involved with the audit process. I just want to thank everybody who was a part of that. And we're glad that it's over. And our projections are so very close. We were actually on a statewide call the other day where they mentioned the district that got one of the closest to their actual projections on something. So Thomas has done a great job as well getting on board and helping us with that. And what was interesting was our final days of fund balance that we shared in our projection for this year's budget adoption was within a couple of days. So we're glad that as a team we're able to hit the mark with what we're doing and assess it pretty closely. So that was exciting. One of the things that I thought was really fun is the team decided to go out and visit our budget assistants, who are amazing. They do so much every day. Amy Tokar will probably laugh, but I feel like I sign a contract for that woman every day. I don't know where she is, but there's always something going on in the district. And these people are amazing as far as making sure that they're submitting purchase orders and contracts and all those things that really can seem tedious, but keep us out of hot water. And so the team went around and visited with each of the budget assistants after their training that we shared last month and gave them a little recognition. And so we just wanted to say thank you to them. And we also closed out some auction items. So if you do want to, there may be an opportunity for some things, but some things have gone away and we're not too sad about that. So we sold about $2,300 worth of books and furniture and just old things that people weren't using. And about 1,640 of that was books. We had distributed as many of them as we could, but there's an organization that purchased the majority of those books and is actually sending them to a school in Ghana. So just a total win across the board that those students will benefit from it. The organization that purchased them is helping facilitate that. And it frees up a ton of space. So we can really start to maximize some of that. Fun fact, our unofficial total for the bus auction was maybe a little over $25,000. So the buses are moving slowly. I started that today, right? Fun fact about this bus on the right, it's a terrible picture, so I apologize for that. It was straight from the little auction snippet of the report. But that bus sold, sir, do you realize that bus was purchased the year I graduated from high school? I missed my 25-year high school reunion a while back, but so we're not missing anything that we would have actually been utilizing. And they really could use the space back there to help facilitate what they're doing every day to roll buses out. So I'm glad we were able to get that done. Now it's just the process of completing and getting those out of the way. On the operations side, we do have a few projects we've been waiting on supplies, but the playground fencing is complete. So it's nice to be rid of the ugly orange temporary fencing and have something more permanent and safe for those students. We'll be looking at the security vestibule and updating that over Thanksgiving break. Puster playground equipment will probably still arrive between December and January. And then we did do some custodial recognition. The beginning of October was Custodial Appreciation Day. So we took some time and went out to the campuses and visited, and they were all just so appreciative when you come by and visit and just say thank you. So we took a couple fun pictures. And I got to give kudos to Rigo because usually it's, trying to schedule time to get out everywhere. He has to do it twice because we have first shift and second shift, and then he does it again on third shift, which is really late. So I don't think he sleeps very often. But we really appreciate the team. And so just a few things we wanted to share with you, and we'd be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
You heard Courtney referenced this in her discussion about her plan, a multi-tiered system of support, which is referred to as MTSS. You may have heard of response to intervention, RTI. This is what the district is shifting to when we're looking at how we're using data and designing instruction to meet the instructional level of students. So our teachers have naturally, good teachers do this anyway. They look at student performance, they look at what kids already know, what do they need to know, where are gaps, where are strengths, and they design learning to do that. So some of the work that the department has been doing, and we've been working with campuses, is to really more clearly define what MTSS looks like here in Lovejoy. So as I've described, it's a systematic continuous improvement framework in which we're using data to problem solve and guide decision making. So it's very student specific centered based on their needs. So basically what we look at academic data, and we're also looking at attendance data too, because we do know that impacts student achievement. It's comprised of 4 essential components. We look at screenings. There's a progress monitoring piece in it to where we set goals. You heard the first grade team talking about and Wendy talking about where they're setting monthly goals, for example, in reading. That can be done across all content areas. And then we're looking at how we are systematically intervening or being proactive in order to set our kids up for success, and all of that centered around data-based decision making. That's provided through not just your general education, but it's a collaborative effort between gen ed, special education, gifted, talented, and advanced academics teachers. So we're all involved in that process. You're going to see this occurring in collaborative teams. So it's not just a separate event. It's just the way that we work. I noted some examples there through your weekly team and department meetings, your problem solving team, you've heard your PST teams, and then what our teachers call kid talks. They're really just looking at data. They're talking about how our kids performed on assessments, progress they're making, lack of progress, what could be causing that. Is it student attendance? Is it the part on the side of the teacher that maybe we need to adjust instruction differently if a large majority of students are not performing in the classroom? So it's just really asking good questions. Why are kids performing or not performing? This just gives you somewhat of a visual. MTSS looks at behavioral pieces too. It looks at academics, and it just looks at how kids interact socially. And it just gives you some of the areas that we would look at. I want you to point out there on that tier where you see the circle with the graduation cap in the center there. Tier 1 is considered just universal. That's where the level that all of our students, general education classroom, all students receive Tier 1 instruction. Tier 2 instruction is for students who might need a little extra more. It might be something during leopard time. It might be that they're differentiating in small groups, flex grouping. Tier 3 is more intensive interventions that we're providing for our students. So that could be special education services. It could be dyslexia services that we're providing students, but it's more intensive and more frequent. This is just what I said earlier too, just how it intersects so nicely with professional learning communities. We're looking at student performance and student data to drive our decision making. There's a piece, and I put this in your Thursday board update last week about, and I believe one of the principals referenced, it's a platform that houses the data. It just helps teachers bring all the data in one location and look at it together. What we have, we're data rich, but it's almost to the point to where there's so much data, it's hard for teachers to, first of all, find the time pulling it together, and then what data is the most relevant at the time and purposeful for the kids at the time too. So branching, you've heard I mentioned Branching Minds. It's simply a platform that the district has purchased to bring all the data in. We trained teacher leaders last week in it, and we told them, we hear Katie say this many times, we're going to go slow to go fast. We're going to try to get deep before we really launch this at a high level. We had trouble holding them back. They wanted to take it back and get back to their campuses and start talking to their staff about it. In fact, one of Courtney's teachers made a video as soon as she got back to share the news with the staff too. So I think they're excited that it's a nice way for a team to come together and look at how students are performing and look at various factors that may be impacting that. So any questions about MTSS or the platform? Okay, thank you.
So I wanted to share a little bit. I feel like we've been on a little bit, and Anne's been with us on a little coffee circuit with SAGE. Actually, tomorrow morning is our last SAGE event. We would have hit all 6 campuses because we also had one here at our early childhood center. And so it's been a great opportunity to, if you look at the words down below, our intent is to help increase communication and connection and resources and awareness and collaborate and really partner together. And so we've had great turnouts in all of the events. So Holly, no pressure. We're looking for a great turnout for Puster tomorrow. I know you're competitive, so you got it. We also on October the 12th had our first Special Education Advisory Committee. And just as a reminder, both special education and our gifted and talented both started off this year with advisory committees. And so our next one will be November 10th. We had a great opportunity. We have parents who from each of the campuses that are on the committee. We have SAGE reps that are there to make sure there's some nice collaboration and alignment in some of the we're not recreating the wheel, working together. And then we have staff members. So we're excited to keep moving forward again with connecting and finding ways to make sure we're arming our parents with resources and support from the district. And then the last slide there is last week we sent out our October Special Education Parent Connect newsletter. And so you'll see a copy of it in the Thursday board update as well. And so another opportunity, if a parent's not involved with PTO or doesn't have a connection with the Special Education Advisory Committee, another way that we're finding ways to connect and communicate with our parents. So it's been a nice pathway just to share, and our parents feeling not only connected with the district, but also finding connections with one another. Sometimes it can feel lonely walking the path. And if you haven't been able to arm yourself with other parents that may be walking the same pathway, it's nice to know that you're not in this alone, not only from the school district perspective, but from other parents. I wish Mr. Young stayed. He actually was sitting here in the red, and hopefully he went home because he's going to be a guest educator tomorrow, but he actually was one of our guest educators. We had 18 that came to the special education training. And so just as a reminder, in September, Mrs. Koenig came and we really asked you guys to invest some additional compensation for any guest educators who may be filling in as a special education aide or teacher. And we had 18 that signed up. And so we met with them last week and had a full day. We looked at not only instructional best practices, we went over just guest educator expectations, but we looked at behavior supports and how might you support a student that uses assistive technology in the classroom, and what's the difference between a resource room and if I'm subbing for a co-teacher? And we pulled our instructional coaches in at the latter part of the day, and they really shared some nuances from each of their campuses. Also, it allowed our guest educators that were there to see a familiar face. So if they were on campus and they know, hey, the instructional coach may be able to, I can pick their brain about a particular situation. And so they were pretty pumped up. So we're going to gather data and we'll come back and give an update on where we're at with increase in fill rates for special education. We already have a second training date planned because not everybody was able to attend. And so that one is going to be on December 2nd. So we definitely are excited. And I know our campus administrators are excited to be able to hopefully have more unfilled spots filled by our guest educators. But it was a great group and we really had a nice day of training with them. Grants, it filled my heart as I watched the presentation and you heard the staff talk about build training. And so that actually was intervention materials that came out of the dyslexia grant. And so the Reading Academy, the intent behind that was our K-1 teachers who went through a year long of training. You heard them mention the Reading Academy. We really wanted to give them a tool that they then could use that training and intervention for students. And so it's really nice that they've hit the ground running. I think I shared last month that they had received training in the BUILD program. Again, Scottish Rite is a very reputable entity. And so we're excited and we'll be collecting data on success for students. Our autism grant, you heard me share a little bit about this last month, and we're continuing to move forward. The difference between the two slides, STAR, when you hear me say anything about STAR, that's pre-K through 4. The links portion is really for our secondary. And so we've continued with job embedded coaching. Actually, it's not on here, but we did have our STAR coaches who were in district last week. And so they were back in classrooms looking at implementation, whether it was a elementary teacher that's had the training, how they're doing. They provide a written summary of here's the celebrations, here's the things to still tweak, and then the campus administrators get a copy of that. That also happened for our links, which is our secondary teachers that have received the training. But we also were able on our early release day to pull some of our teachers and our paraprofessionals and do a specific strategy. It's called discrete trial. It's very specific in nature, but really it looks at trying to break down steps and teaching a routine for students. And so it was really nice to be able to continue to pour in because our paraprofessionals do amazing work in the classroom. And so we want to be able to pour into them. So as the trainers from STAR in the classroom, they'll also be looking at implementation for our paras that may be using that particular strategy and be able to give them some coaching as well. Not only from the STAR staff, but also we do have BCBAs, which are the behavior group in the district. And so a strategy like discrete trial would also be, they would be also another reference point or resource for our paraprofessionals to get feedback on how they're doing. And then structured literacy training. So again, part of the dyslexia grant, one of the things that we wanted to make sure, Reading Academy definitely has targeted on the elementary side of the house, but we wanted to make sure, because we know reading is the gateway for all, that we target our sort of quasi-secondary. Really, we targeted 4th through 8th grade to be able to provide some additional training for them around structured literacy training. That happened also on October 21st. Our principals are always gracious and allowing us to come in and use some of the time that they have staff available to be able to fill tools in their toolbox. So the next step to this will be following up and doing, again, job embedded coaching. How are they using those skills to be able to help support reading in the classroom? Our goal is always to try to close those gaps. K2, K3, but we do know that there are students who are in that 4th or 8th grade range that still have some weaknesses in reading. And so we want to arm our teachers with the skills to be able to support that as well. Questions?
It sounds like the money we're getting from that dyslexia grant is going to have a positive impact on a lot more than just our dyslexic population, which is pretty exciting to see.
Absolutely. So the intent behind the grant truly is really more the prevention side of the house versus reactionary. Absolutely. Thank you.
The weather is coming in. Okay, let's just hope the lights stay on. Good evening, everyone. Something that we are focused in the Human Resources Department is truly our guest educators and hiring guest educators, onboarding them, getting to come and work in Lovejoy. We have reached out to every single retirement association in the area. You name one, we've reached out to them. We made some phone calls and are actively onboarding guest educators. We have 16 right now in the onboarding process. Of course, 85 active and continuing to grow that. As Stancy said, we had 18 attend the special education training, and Mr. Young actually even brought his wife with him. And today they also attended security training. We do have someone famous in the room. Our school marshal, Mr. Littlefield, actually did the training, and we videotaped him so everyone could view. If they missed the training, we could share that. So he didn't seem too shy about that either. So we were pretty excited about that.
Did he know that?
You know, that's why I wouldn't let anyone ask questions until the very end. So.
Well, everybody's surprised.
So anyway, we did have 30 attend security training. And of course, you know, we want to recognize them and thank them. And they had some great ideas and suggestions, and was grateful for being there and knowing that security is such a priority on our campuses. And I also want to thank Sancy and her team, Allison and Heather, for helping out with that training. Training day was wonderful. We all popped in that day, and there's some great things going on. And they were just very appreciative that we brought them in, that we provided that professional development, that it was hands-on. It wasn't a set and get. It was truly active. And we're glad to be part of the process. Since then, so we had training on October 14th, which that means we've had 6 school days since the training. And out of, we had 24 sub-requests. We had 14 filled out of those sub-requests in a special ed position, and 10 of those were filled with special education teachers that had attended the training. So we had 4 that had done it multiple times. So we were pretty excited about that there. And of course, as Sancy said, our next training class is December 2nd. We're already sending out information on that. There's a picture of our onboarding class. And we're also trying to recruit our future educators. So we are having an informational section. iTeach is coming. They're going to be here in the library November 14th from 5 to 6. They'll provide snacks, goodies, anyone that wants to come. It's open to the public. We're also going to reach out to our paraprofessionals and staff members. So we would welcome anyone that would want to come to listen about that so they can teach in Lovejoy ISD. And as we said earlier, we were pretty excited. We were given the opportunity to interview future residencies. We had from Texas A&M Commerce, we had 5 requests Lovejoy, and we took all 5 of them. I think 3 are going to be at Pester, 2 at Hart, and 1 at Slum Creek. 2, and 1. So, and then of course, we're going to have a couple at the high school too. So pretty excited about that too. Questions for me?
Hey, and that program you were just talking about, we haven't had that going that long. How quickly have we been able to generate those?
The residency?
Yes.
Well, let's see, we went to TAMUC in end of September. We did a day there and spent some time recruiting, and then we came back. We got the list of those that were interested in Lovejoy. We came back and we called them all. And I think we called 7, and so we got 5 here. 1 is not ready to do it. One thing that we did that was somewhat strategic that helped us, and I told Katie did, is our program started in January and goes into December. A lot of them started in the fall and finished. So there's only us in Paris, Texas that did that. So everyone on this side that's with TAMUC Commerce really want to come to us.
So,
That's great.
yeah.
Good
It
job.
worked out well for us, I think.
Wanted to give you a couple of updates to start with on some road construction that's going on in the district. The first one being on FM 2170, which is a States Parkway, which, as you know, runs in front of the high school. I was able to attend a pre-construction meeting on October 19th. That was the first ever pre-construction meeting I had attended. The first thing they said to me was, we've never had anybody wear a suit in here. That was their very pleasant way of saying, don't ever wear a suit in here again. But no, that it was really beneficial, helpful for us at getting the information that they shared, but also giving them the school's information on their side to help them kind of navigate the next 7 to 10 months on the construction they'll be doing on the States Parkway. So just in brief, the construction is going to begin on November 5th, which is coming up. It's going to, it has a completion date of June or July of 2023. And the working hours, much to the delight of Mr. Neal, are going to be from 9 to 3:30. So pretty much school's going to start before they start each day, and they're going to finish up the construction before dismissal at the high school, and Dr. Zambezi too, of course. They're going to be doing a base repair and adding some shoulders. Where there are already shoulders, they're adding 3-foot shoulders on both sides of the road. Where there's already 3-foot shoulders, they're just going to normalize it so there's 3 foot all the way up and down the road. One of the things that they said they could add as they go along, they'll determine, is a turn lane. If you're coming east on a States Parkway from the red light, trying to turn left onto Rock Ridge Road, it can block traffic, right? And so they're going to determine at a later date if they'll widen Estates a little bit at that point and offer up a very small or short turn lane that would allow a few cars to get out of the way and turn left onto Rock Ridge Road. So that's one of the things that they could potentially add as they get a little bit further into the construction. The next one is on 1378, which is Country Club Road. We were not invited to this pre-construction meeting. I'm not sure why, but I did ask them to, anytime that there is construction going on in the district roadways, that's obviously going to impact our transportation, to please invite us just so we'll know what to expect, right? And so this construction is going to begin, or it began on October 20th. And it's a little bit longer of a project. It's going to go until September or October of 2023. I have a map here to show you, as you probably already know, but the general work hours are going to be the same from 9 to 3:30. So they're going to start after Sloan Creek begins its school day. I asked them if there's any way to finish up their construction each day at 2:30 instead of 3:30, because as you know, especially right in front of Sloan Creek, it could get pretty hairy if they're trying to do road work and we're trying to get buses and cars into and out of the campus. And they said that shouldn't be a problem. And so they're going to try to accommodate us by going from 9 to 2:30 instead of 9 to 3:30. They're going to be doing the same type of road repair. They're not widening Country Club at all. But right now, for the first couple of months, you won't notice too much construction because all they're doing is driveway work along Country Club Road. So the map, as you can see here, I've highlighted the parts of Estates, or it's really the entirety of Estates from Angel Parkway all the way to Country Club. And then on Country Club, just pretty much at the intersection of Rock Ridge Road and Country Club is where they're going to start, and it'll go all the way north, and then it'll bend west along Country Club all the way to Highway 5. So they'll be doing that road work the entirety of that whole section from Rock Ridge Road all the way to Highway 5. Next, I would like to highlight and congratulate the Lovejoy High School Band. If you have never been to a marching contest, I highly, highly recommend you take that opportunity, not only for the precision of the marching, but how many parents it involves getting the field set, get the timing of it, the whole thing, because when they say go, the clock starts, and it's like, I hope this is not a bad analogy. It's like kicking over an ant pile because everybody scatters. They're going, parents are everywhere getting props set up, the band's moving. And again, the clock is going, they have to get their routine in and then they have to clear the field in a certain amount of time. And it is like clockwork. Mr. Hoyer, the rest of the band directors do an amazing job. And so this photograph was from Kimbrough Stadium, which is where not this past weekend, the weekend before, they performed at Kimbrough Stadium for their district competition, scored really, really well, moved on to the area competition this past weekend at McKinney ISD, and then they will perform at the Bands of America this Saturday in Waco, which is a huge accomplishment, a huge honor to be able to perform at Bands of America. And I've learned a lot about marching band over the past few weeks, but it is really an incredible thing to watch. And the kids have done phenomenally. And again, people I don't think realize how much involvement the parents have in that whole in the whole production of it all. And it couldn't be done without the parents, which also includes Mr. Bobo. So he had a large role in that as well. Next, our Lovejoy High School team tennis season just finished up. And they had a very good showing in the playoffs. They defeated Crandall in the first round. They beat Hallsville in the second round, and they fell 10-9 to Corsicana in a very tight regional quarterfinals to move on to the regional semis. But they, in Coach Wick's first year here, they did a great job. And of course, they'll start their individual season in the spring. But the fall is for team tennis, and they did a great job. Finally, cross country, their regional meet is tomorrow. They may need to bring some galoshes, but regardless, they will be racing at Lynn Creek Park at Joe Pool Lake in Grand Prairie. The girls run at 10:30 tomorrow, and the boys run at 11:10. And so they are heavy favorites, I guess, in both to move on to the state meet, which will be held in Round Rock. Is that right, Casey? Each year it's held in Round Rock. And that's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks too. So we anticipate that they'll do well tomorrow. So, any questions? Great, thank you.
They're taking a spirit bus to that, and they've encouraged parents to go.
They are.
So if anyone has extra galoshes and they want to go, they would welcome.
Or
I
a
think-
spirit boat.
Yeah, a spirit boat. Yeah, maybe that's.
Spirit boat. Is that what you said?
Neat, though. You're going to cheer on the runners. It's pretty cool. So.
All right. Thank you for that. Item 16, Ms. Cordell.
Thank you.
With it being National Principal Month, I want to make sure that I express my deep gratitude and highest respect for our five principals and the incredible leadership that they provide in our school district. I actually have to use notes to detail their responsibilities, demonstrating instructional leadership, providing a safe school environment, supporting and developing teachers, cultivating positive relationships. They're culture builders. They create a shared vision on their campus. They manage budgets and resources, supervise personnel, partner and communicate with stakeholders, analyze data, and manage school facilities, a lot of which you saw in their incredible work on their campus improvement plans. And that's not even everything that they do. They are truly incredible leaders. And the principalship has only gotten more complex with more and more that's been on their shoulders. And I can tell you to every single one of them that are back there, that they rise to every challenge because they care so much about our kids and about our teachers and our community. And I'm just so proud and humbled by the work that they do each and every day.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cordell. Item 17, public comments related to non-agenda items.
Yes, we have one comment tonight, Mr. Richard Williams. If you want to please go over to the mic, and President Owens will read you our directions per comment.
As you know, when you signed in, you signed to our rules, but a few things I would call out. Each individual, you have 1 minute. Each individual will have one opportunity per meeting to share their comments with the Board of Trustees. And if a speaker is not present when his or her name's called, the speaker forfeits the opportunity to speak at the meeting. All speakers will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Presiding officer reserves the right to reduce the number of minutes per speaker to no less than 1 minute, depending on the number of speakers. Speakers will be recognized in order. If there is more than one speaker, then the allotted time for public comment, the amount of time per speaker may be reduced. If you have a specific concern related to an employee of the district or specific student issue, you are encouraged to utilize the district's grievance procedures provided in board policies, DGBA local, FNG local, and GF local, or applicable grievances. Each grievance procedure allows for an individual to redress grievances with the Board of Trustees. All relevant policies are available online at lovejoyist.net. Disruptive behavior will not be tolerated in the meeting if after the provision of a single warning, the disruptive behavior continues. The disruptive individual may be escorted out of the meeting by district officials and or law enforcement. It's a criminal offense for a person with intent to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting, to substantially obstruct or interfere with the ordinary conduct of a meeting by physical action or verbal utterance. The Board of Trustees appreciates your active participation in the district. So you have 3 minutes, sir. Can you state your name and where you live?
I'm Richard Williams. I live in Parker, Texas. I came up here today because something has really been bothering me. Back earlier this year, went over to Sloan Creek and the security guys came up, and I want to preface this by saying I'm not complaining at all. I think what they've got is a great plan, but there is one specific thing that really bothers me. And we've had 2 instances now in our country. And I asked the question at that meeting with security guys, what are we doing to prevent people from coming inside the schools? Today, we had another incident where we had a 19-year-old kid who was a graduate get inside the school. He breached the door. And the answer that I got was, we have cameras. We'll see it on the camera. We'll act on it. I don't think that that's good enough for me anyway. And Uvalde, same thing. They breached the cameras. And I get what they're saying, and I understand there's things we don't need to know, but there's a layer of security there that is missing. And we sit up here and we had these little girls up here earlier, which was awesome. We had these principals back here doing great things. It's awesome. We had these teachers doing amazing things that are just, I describe it to my friend as Lovejoy. It's like watching a Disney after school special live. I really do. But we need to protect that, and that comes with some of the hardening of things outside the schools. And there's been a couple instances where I felt things were a little too easy, and there's a balance. I get it. I understand that. But in this particular case, I really would like to see our security look at how do we prevent somebody from walking in the door. And I was talking to a friend of mine who was in charge of security over in Iraq, and he was talking about layered security and how you can, keep people from walking in the door. And you don't want all kinds of, you don't want kids going and having to put their backpacks on a table every day and all that kind of stuff. We get that, but we really need to do something. I don't know if it's volunteer dads, what it is, but something where we can somehow stop these guys from walking in the door. And that's my concern, because getting a mother on camera in St. Louis, that guy was on a camera, but he still got in the school today, killed a student, killed a teacher, and he got killed himself. And there's still one more in critical condition. And I'm sorry, I just think that as a board, I'd hope that you'd go back to your security teams and go, we got to look at hardening somehow. How can we prevent them, or at least make it really, really hard for them to get in that door? So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
There are no further comments.
All right. With that, we would be adjourned.